Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, madam.
Good evening, all. I, Nivedita Tulsian, a research scholar at School of Management, NIT Rourkela, welcome you all to the third day of our FTP titled Earthwise Transforming Climate Action and Sustainability for Better Tomorrow. I am honored to welcome you all warmly. Dr. Sanjay Kumar, Chief Policy Advisor, Climate Parliament, retired Director General of Forest of India, has been awarded his PhD degree from the University of Cambridge and is currently serving as a chairperson at the Green Mining and Mineral Processing Task Force and the Western Ghats ESA Committee and is designated as Chief Policy Advisor at Climate Parliament. He has served at various distinguished roles. Sir has been with Jharkhand Forest Department as Principal Chief Conservator of Forest and Head, Deputy Inspector General, Ministry of Environment and Forest, Government of India, and many other. He is firm believer in the potential of a world powered by renewable energy sources and has a distinguished track record. We are highly privileged to have you here with us, sir. Sir, please.
Thank you, Mosmi, and thank you, Dr. Manuel, for having me here for this very interesting discussion today on what we call a green zone. Let me first introduce myself to you, although Mosmi has introduced me to you all. Let me also tell you that I'm presently working after retiring from the government as Director General of Forest and Special Secretary to the Government of India. I'm presently working as the Chief Policy Advisor of the Climate Parliament. And Climate Parliament is actually a network of members of Parliament from around the world. Our members of Parliament are champion MPs, champion in the sense that they are championing the cause of climate change, both in terms of mitigation action and adaptation actions. So we currently have membership from about members of Parliament from about 120 countries, more than 2,000 members of Parliament from around the world regularly take part in the meeting. And we are principally the secretariat of that network of members of Parliament. And I work as a chief policy advisor globally, advising the members of Parliament on various policy issues and various strategies which they could push with their governments. So in that role, which I have been assigned to since my retirement in 2021, I have learned quite a lot. But before that also, my career has spanned many different sectors, both academic career and the professional career. Academically, I completed my first master's in botany, then my second master's in forestry and allied. My third master's was in public administration. And then I did my PhD in economics from University of Cambridge. So that is how you can say that my academic career also has spanned quite a divergent range of subjects. In professional career also, I have worked with various organizations, and these organizations represented sectors like agriculture, water, then natural resources, and more recently on energy sector. So what I can present to you today is a kind of a conglomerate view or synthesized view of things which are happening globally. I would take the example of India, but this example is actually very much relevant to the global scenario of climate change. I should not be actually lecturing you on what is climate change, how it has impacted. But I just wanted to tell you, share with you that as engineers, as academic professionals, as management professionals, and academics from various disciplines, uh, climate change has opened a lot of new opportunity. And I'm going to talk to you about one such new opportunities. I will make a very, very short presentation, maybe about 15, 20 minutes. Uh, but you are completely free to ask me questions in between while I'm explaining those slides from my presentations. Uh, and then we can have a kind of a discussion after my presentation. In Climate Parliament, we always believe in a dialogical form of presentation. So we always have a great pleasure when there are interventions from the audience, from the participants about explaining their viewpoint, and we will try to accommodate your suggestions during the course of discussions. So please feel free to stop me at any point. If you want to add anything, suggest anything, if you have any kind of a query, please do so rather than waiting towards the end of my presentation. You are most welcome either way. You could do it in between or you could come at the end of it. So the topic of today, as I mentioned in the beginning, is green zones. You know that climate change is a reality. It's a global reality. And our Honorable Prime Minister has categorized it as one of the two greatest challenges of the humanity today. His views are shared by many global leaders. In fact, scientists, global leaders, politicians, they all agree in general that climate change is a threat to our civilization and the Earth's system, as we know it from physics, could be completely changed, which could disable human civilization to be present on the Earth. That is a common agreement which scientists, which most of the politicians and leaders have come to understand. But the challenge, despite knowing the fact that this is a great climate change is a great challenge, the ways in which this climate change could be mitigated or we could adapt to the climate change is still very sketchy. There are huge number of plans, net zero plan, policy scenarios, NDCs, etc. But how to do things practically, which could create opportunity both for the business as well as economic growth of the country without compromising the without compromising the primary objectives of development in any developing country. That's a great challenge. And the challenge also manifests itself in finding money for initiating efforts in that direction. We do have plans, as I mentioned, but these are sketchy plans. Even for that, those sketchy plans, we don't have money at the present. On the other hand, we know that a lot of money is sitting in the hands of private financiers, the private sector. Even if we talk of bonds, then the size of the bond market is much more, many times more than the expenditure budget of all countries in the world together. So you can say that there is no dearth of money. There is only a problem that the money which is available with the global community is concentrated in the hands of the few. And those few want, as a prudent investor, to keep their money safe. Nobody wants that their money should be squandered on things which could not bring them enough returns. And we have always uh, been told in our childhood days, uh, teachers telling us in English literature, money begets money. So that is the principle with which the private investors in the world are very concerned. And their sole principle is that unless our money is safe and our money is bringing returns, no, they will not invest. They will not invest in anything. They are not here for philanthropy, pure and simple philanthropy. Of course, there are philanthropies, but that philanthropy is driven by private capital, basically. And when we talk of private capital, it doesn't mean that this private capital is in the hands of a private individual. It could be in the hands of government also. But that capital is actually driving the philanthropy. So philanthropy is not the principal means through which we can combat the greatest challenge of human civilization, which is climate change. We need private capital to be invested. But as I mentioned, that investment needs to be safe. Yeah. So now let me go to my presentation. I'll try to. Are you able to see my presentation now? Can someone confirm?
Yes,
Mostly.
sir. Yes, sir, it is visible.
Okay, great, great. So let me go through my presentation. And as I mentioned, please stop me whenever you want to present your suggestion or any comment, or you have any query. Or if I'm speaking too fast, which is not actually comprehensible to you. So let me go to the next slide. I'm going to share with you mainly 4 ideas today. If we talk of projects, no? If we talk of any plan, any action, okay, it needs money. But the attractiveness for investment into that particular project or that particular plan varies very, very widely. That is why when you actually see that a particular equity has been put to public market, no, it gets a lot of mileage. It gets a lot of attraction, and it is oversubscribed by many times. On the other hand, there are few public offerings which do not. Yeah. Or you must be hearing that this particular companies or this particular project is going in loss. So the investment attractiveness of projects varies. So that is the basic principle. But then how do we actually make that investment attractive? After a lot of thought, we have come out with a concept of green zones. Okay? And then we have conceived this idea about 1.5 years ago. in the climate parliament, the green zones idea. It's not like a novel idea. It's not like an idea which is very, very unique. No? So we have drawn a lot from other type of models. But this green zone is a kind of a new thing in terms of terminology. And this terminology is actually getting mainstreamed. Why it is getting mainstreamed? Because at COP29 in Azerbaijan, our partners, Climate Parliament has a number of partners. We have partners in the universities. We are part of a research group, which is called the Climate Compatible Growth. And University of Cambridge, Oxford, University College London, Royal KTS Sweden. These prominent institutions are part of that Climate Compatible Growth Research Network. And the Climate Parliament is the only non-academic institution which is part of that network. And these institutions provide us with a lot of like policy suggestions and guidance on what could be done. Similarly, we are part of other global organizations, including in the UN system, United Nations system. So United Nations Industrial Development Organization is our partner. United Nations Economic and Social Commission on Asia Pacific is our member. Asian Development Bank, African Development Bank are our partners. Similarly, World Bank has also partnered with us. So there are many organizations globally which have partnered with us. And through these partners, actually, we have emphasized, we have impressed upon the presidency of the COP29, which was Azerbaijan last year in November, to also recognize the concept of green zones. And they did that. And this green zone idea, they issued a pledge for green zones, green energy zones they called. And that's how this green zone idea is slowly becoming mainstream in global climate politics. And in the later part of my presentation, I'm going to share with you how actually the concept of green zone reduces the risks and improves attractiveness of investment into climate-related action. Yeah. So let me begin with first, what is the investment challenge? And I will begin with the example of India. My presentation is basically India focused, but we have applied this to many other regions of the world and many countries of the world. So when we talk of climate finance, Government of India has constituted a committee in 2020, and they estimated what's the kind of requirement, annual requirement for mitigating climate change in India. And that committee came out, of which I was also a part. That committee came out with a figure that we required an annual investment of about $170 billion until 2030. Yeah. And to meet our net zero goals 2070, we require about 212 billion US dollars every year. So close to about $2.4 trillion until 2030, and close to about 10.5 US trillion dollars until 2070. That's a kind of requirement. But as you can see from this pie chart, we have been able to mobilize only 50 billion US dollars out of the required $170 billion, 23% only. The rest 77% is still the climate investment gap in India. And mind you, that India is one of the favored investment countries of the world. Today, India is one of the most favored countries in terms of climate investment. Yet, we have been able to mobilize only 23% of the requirement into climate finance. This is a figure of 2021-22. It's a slightly older figure, about 2 years ago. And I think the figure remains almost the same. Maybe there is a slight increase. No? So you see that the huge amount of huge amount. Can someone mute other participants, please? Thank you. So there is a huge gap, and that's why we require a new kind of investment framework. Yeah. And that is the framework which is actually very, very relevant to engineers, to management professionals, to finance professionals. No? So if we break down this $50 billion into which sectors that money has flown, no? $50 billion, the climate finance which we have been able to mobilize. Yeah. So this is the figure. No? You see, out of the $50 billion, a major part of that has gone into clean energy, clean transportation, and then energy efficiency. So these are the three major headings in which the money has gone. If you want to go into more detail and the instruments through which the funding has been made available, okay, these are all given in this graph. No? So balance sheet financing, which is called debt financing also is the largest. Equity financing is the next biggest one. Government budgetary expenditure is another one. Just excuse me for a second. Ma'am, can I call back? I'm making a presentation. Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. I will call you after 1 hour. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So, these are the kinds of financing which are available. And you can see that India, because it is a highly favored country, so it's not depending upon grant. Grant is only about 9 billion Indian rupees, which is much less in terms of US dollars. Yeah. So, what I actually wanted to highlight here, that there are three sectors: clean energy sector, clean transportation sector, and energy efficiency sector, which has attracted the most of the climate finance in India. And these are the sectors with which engineers, management professionals are very much related to. So this could be highly relevant to you as well. Yeah. And when we talk of clean energy, you could see that solar has received the highest contribution. Wind is the second, hydro energy is third. A mix of RE is next. Solar rooftop, which is distributed energy, is another, and likewise. Yeah. And in clean transportation also, you can see the multiple rapid transit systems have attracted the highest, and then there's electric vehicle, etc. Similarly, energy efficiency, energy efficient appliances, which is a big thing, and actually a lot of startups have come in this field. In engineering startups, so they have garnered the largest investment for climate finance in India. Yeah. Now let me come to the next slide, which would show that what I was meaning, that what is the kind of cost of capital in India. You know that when we borrow money from the bank for any project, no, there is a kind of a cost. Yeah. And if we invest our own money, we also want a kind of a return. Yeah. So if you see that this particular actually chart shows you that what is the kind of return an investor actually wants, no, actually expects, not wants, expects. Yeah. So the cost of equity, you see, it was 8.1% in 2014. It has fallen down slightly, 2021, it has become 6.3%. Yeah. And then in 2024, it has again risen to 7.2% because of tightening of the monetary policy. Yeah. And because money is not available in the market to that extent. But To the to add to that is the upper green shaded portion. You can see here. Yeah, you can see here. Yeah. So the darker green portion, roughly about 7 to 7.5% to 7%, is the market risk premium. This is the premium which is added to the cost of equity. Yeah. And this actually risk premium is the real source of the cost of equity or cost of debt in any country. What is the kind of perception people have about the risk? So risk is, and you can see that in India, which is actually a fairly stabilized economy, even here, the market risk premium is almost the same as the cost of equity. So in practice, actually, any investor will not come to any project in India unless the returns are today less than 14% or so. Okay, they will not be comfortable. They will require additional kinds of some guarantees or additional kinds of grants or additional kinds of securities. Yeah. So you could see that. No? Now let me break it down. But this cost of equity, which was 14%, is not the same, as I mentioned before, is not the same across projects. Yeah. But across the sector also, you could see that there are a lot of differences. Say, for example, media and entertainment. No? So in average 2014, it was 16.5%. It has come down to 12%. Yeah. In IT and ITS, it was 12% in 2014. It has in fact gone up because now the market is perceiving more risk in IT and ITS. Okay. But if you come to power, the power and utility sector, which is this one, you could very well see that there is a consistent drop in the cost of equity. From 15.6% in 2014, it came down to 13.8%. It came down to 15.3% in 2017. Then it came down to 13.7% in 2021. And now in 2024, it was only 12.5%. And you can see that this drop is not only consistent, but is also very appreciable. No other sector actually, except for media and entertainment, which is very, very dicey, has actually followed this pattern. And you know why this has happened? This has happened because the government has taken a lot of targeted reforms. You know, targeted reforms, those which have reduced the risk which are there with any project. I will come later in my presentation. What are the kinds of risks which project investors actually see in any project? But for the time being, you can see that if the government is determined, then it can push those reforms which reduces the risk for any investor. And that is how actually you could bring in investment. And one such reform actually has taken place in the power sector, which actually has completely transformed the whole ecosystem of energy in the country. And that is actually the push towards renewable energy. Push towards renewable energy. If you remember, historically, in 2008, when the first national plan for national action plan on climate change was drawn, 8 missions were initiated. Then one of the mission was National Solar Mission, under which 22 gigawatts of target was fixed until 2030. Yeah. And till 2014, everybody in the government was talking that this 20 22 gigawatts of target until 2030 is an impossible target. Nobody was believing that this target would be achieved. But in 2014, when the NDA government took power, uh, the Honorable Prime Minister immediately raised the target in 2015 to 160 gigawatts, and 160 to 200, 200, 300, etc., etc. So, and the targets kept on increasing, and now the target is 500 gigawatts. And now the whole system is talking about achieving this 500 gigawatts of target. And everybody is saying that India should be able to achieve that 500 gigawatts of target because there is so much of things going on, so much of attractiveness which has increased. No? So just one reform, that an ambitious target has been set at a very, very high level. And this target is being reiterated at the highest political level in the country, has given a lot of confidence to the investors to come in. And mind you, that the renewable energy revolution in India has taken place almost entirely through the efforts of the private sector. I'm not denying that the public sector has also a part, but a lot of that has come from the private sector. Yeah. And actually, you see that technology has played a very, very big role in this. Along with this policy of and the ambitious target, our scientists, our engineers, they have come together and they have been working together on presenting solutions, technological solutions to things which were not possible before. Yeah. So in the yesteryears, nobody was thinking that renewable energy could power the world 24 by 7. Nobody was thinking. Everybody was saying that sun is during the day, wind actually blows sometimes. So, hydro is there for some periods of the year during the summers. Most of the rivers dry up, most of the dams dry up. So hydro can also. And nobody was actually thinking that renewable energy could uh, provide a 24 by 7 electricity. And renewable energy, that is why it was being considered as an adjunct to the firm or base load power. It was coming from either coal or gas or oil, etc., or nuclear. It was never considered, renewable energy was never considered as a firm solution to our electricity needs. No? But now, technologists, scientists, they have all come together, and 24 by 7 renewable electricity is not only possible, but is highly competitive. Yeah. You would be amazed to know that in the recent auctions, the 24 by 7 electricity auction for about, I think, 5,000 megawatts have come at about a price of only 4 rupees 70 paise, whereas new coal is more than 5 rupees. So this 24 by 7 electricity is also coming at a much lower cost compared to the traditional fossil fuels. So that is actually driving. So what is actually required here? That the amalgamation of all the technologies into a politically driven, ambitious target would be the key for which actually the climate parliament is mobilizing the support of members of parliament. And this is actually not only happening in the field of energy, okay? This is also happening in the field of nature-based solutions. When we were thinking of nature-based solutions in the past, we were thinking of forest as a separate entity to wildlife, wildlife to biodiversity, biodiversity to water, water to mangroves. So everything was compartmentalized. There was no integrated view of the ecosystem. But now, actually, people are thinking about integrated ecosystems and how actually these integrated ecosystems could prove beneficial to the mankind in terms of poverty alleviation, in terms of climate resilience, and in terms of adaptation as well. Yeah. So through technology, actually, and through innovations driven by very, very ambitious policies, very, very ambitious targets. No? You could see that this target of nature-based solution has only come about when the global leaders agreed to a 30 by 30 goal. Is reversing land degradation in 30% of the global land area, and protecting 30% of the oceans of the world. So these ambitious targets are driving the global community, comprising of technologists, comprising of bankers, comprising of managers, to come together and find solutions in terms of providing solutions which are not only effective but also economical. Yeah? And in that actually respect, we thought that let's have also a very good bold concept which we are now calling green zones. No? Why we have actually come to the concept of green zones is that green zones are localized solutions. They are located in a small portion of a country. Okay? And because they are located in a small portion of the country, there could be a dedicated law for the management of that zone. It's just like export promotion zone or a special economic zone. Okay? You know that there are laws for a special economic zone. So that's how we can have a law, a dedicated law for a green zone. And because this will be applicable to a particular location, so you need not actually amend a national act. Okay? You need not amend, for example, a National Electricity Act. If you want to change a National Electricity Act or the Forest Conservation Act, for example, okay, you have to go through a whole process of legislation. Yeah? And that will create years and years. There will be a lot of conflicts. There are different stakeholders who would have opposition to your amendment, etc., or to a new law. So rather than doing that, we thought that let's have a concept of a zone which is located in a very, very prominent, very, very suitable area of a particular country. You know? And we could have green zones of many types. We can have a green zone, which could be a green power zone, yeah, green power zone, where we can produce large-scale renewable energy. For example, we have large-scale renewable energy generation in Rajasthan, in Gujarat, etc. In the deserts, where very large amount of wind and solar could be. And these zones could be actually located through very good modeling. Okay? As engineers and as managers, you know now that there are various open source modeling which are available. You know? Various institutes have developed open source modeling, which any users can have access to and create their own models. So by using those models, actually, the project proponents can locate suitable green zones in a particular area backed by a law. We can have a nature-based green zones for ecotourism, mangrove, tropical forest, biodiversity conservation. Similarly, we can have green goods or service zones, for example, yeah, for green hydrogen, green steel, iron, cement, and most importantly, green data centers. No? You know that all these big companies, no, particularly driven by AI, artificial intelligence, their electricity requirement has multiplied by more than 10 times. Yeah. If you like track the commitments made by big cloud companies like Amazon or Google, etc., no, what you will find that these companies, they have actually committed to become net zero by 2025, most of them. But today, none of them is talking about becoming net zero by 2025 because their electricity demand, because of AI, artificial intelligence, has multiplied by 10 times. And they don't have any means to actually procure so much of green energy in terms of their requirement to meet all their requirements. And that's why they are not talking. So this green data centers could also become one of the topics of green zones. Yeah? So you can think of any type of a green zone, which is either producing energy or consuming energy or like producing goods or services which is green, or it could be pure nature-based solutions. No? So you can actually visualize green zones in many forms. Yeah. And as I mentioned, that green zones are not like a completely new idea. We have the concept of a special economic zones. For example, you have this special economic zone, which we call Atlantis special economic zone in South Africa. We have also the similar concept of eco-industrial park, which is happening in many countries, and our partner Unido is actually doing that. Yeah, and we can also have a green zone for a city. Yeah, where everything is green. For example, you have a completely sustainable supply chain of marketable vegetables or cereals or water or your transport or your living or your houses. Everything could be zero waste. Everything could be eco-green. Yeah. So that could also be a green zone. Yeah. And then why actually investors will be interested in this green zone? Why? What will attract them towards green zones? I was telling you that there is the risk premium is almost equivalent to the actual cost of capital. Actual cost of capital. Yeah. So if you talk of a project, there are a lot of risks. Okay, I have just broadly mentioned three types of risk here: completion risk, operational risk, and financing risk. Yeah. Just giving broad examples. Yeah, completion risk, one is permitting. No, if you start any project, you need a lot of permissions. No, environmental clearance, forest clearance, wildlife clearance, labor clearance, industry clearance, fire hazard clearance, this clearance, that clearance. A lot of permissions are required. Then you need support infrastructure, whether there are roads, whether there is electricity, whether there is water, whether there is common common waste treatment facility. Yeah. Then we also have a risk which is related to their corporate social responsibility. Then we have the operational risk. Once a project has been completed, uh, what kinds of operational risks a project faces? I have just, for example, given here two type of operational risks. One is the risk of curtailment, and another is risk of power purchase agreement. No? So these are just illustrative. No? You can add any number of operational risks to this type of classification. So curtailment risks are those risks which are, for example, you often see that you have too much of wind, okay, or you have too much of sun. Then the generators of solar or wind electricity, they are asked to cut down, to ramp down their power. Or if there is more solar and there is a mandate to use more solar in the grid system, then we ask the coal power plant to cut down. So that kind of a curtailment risk. No? Then there is a power purchase agreement risk. So although there is a power purchase agreement, but the payments are not there. Yeah, defaults are there. What about that? And then the financing risk, off-takers risk, credit rating, yeah, currency risk. A lot of equipment is imported. We are importing a lot of solar panel. We are importing a lot of wind turbines. No, we are importing a lot of batteries, and most of the payment is done in US dollar currencies. And you know that the currency always fluctuates, no, against the local currency. So all these type of risks, okay, all these type of risks could be minimized if we are actually working in a zone concept. If we are identifying a particular zone, then the various type of permissions could be integrated and they could be pre-cleared. Yeah. We have done that actually. Yeah. You have seen that in special economic zones or export promotion zones or processing zones, roads, etc. Electricity connection, water connection, common treatment facility, etc. are already provided. Yeah. When it is a zone, all these things become much easier. Likewise, operational risk also is much more minimized, because then if we are working in a zone concept, a lot of industries are there, and then the chances of curtailment because of mismanagement also reduces. Okay? And then the chances of default by the off-taker also reduces, because then it is very much a kind of aggregated activity, and the risks are actually spread over many takers. And that's how we actually reduce the off-takers risk. And the credit rating is also then improved, because if we are working in a zone and the zone has a good reputation, has a good operational efficiency, then the credit rating also increases. No, and similarly, currency risk is also reduced, and you will be very pleased to know that the government of Gujarat has actually initiated that in a very ambitious manner by establishing a gift city near Gandhinagar. And that gift city is providing all kinds of services to such investment, including foreign currency risk reduction. And those things could be much more amenable to a zone concept than spread across the whole country, where different geographies, different political systems in different states, different policies of different states, different land system in different states, actually, they create a lot of risk. No? So once we have a zone concept, then all these kinds of risks are reduced, and the investment potential of that project increases multiple times. Yeah. Yeah. This is just to illustrate you. This is just to illustrate to you the perceived risk in RE projects in India. Okay, and you see, currency risk is the highest perceived risk. Of taker risk, regulatory policy risk. Yeah. Then unfavorable returns risk, transmission and distribution risk, land acquisition risk, cost of capital risk, availability of debt risk. So all these type of risks are like in like a succession. You have all these type of risks, and these green zones could actually address all these type of risks in a very significant manner. And that's why what we are doing in Climate Parliament is to push the concept of green zones. And presently, we are actually engaged with 15 countries in sub-Saharan Africa in a project mode, where we are actually pushing this concept with our partner UNIDO in a highly structured mode. So I will stop here and now open the floor for your suggestions, comments, questions, discussions. And I definitely want to thank you all for a very patient hearing until now. So I'll stop sharing and invite you for your inputs.
Dear participants, now we are open to take the questions. Kindly unmute yourself one by one and you can ask the question. Dr. Bina will share the attendance and feedback link. Kindly ask the questions.
Or you can put your question in the chat. You can type your question in the chat, and I will try to like reply there itself. Or so, Mr. Arvind Dar.
Hello, sir. Good evening, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible, very much audible.
So thank you for this wonderful presentation. Sir, I would like to have 2 to 3 questions from you. First thing, you have initially mentioned that the larger time that financiers are having the decisions related to the sustainability. I believe that only the developed countries or the underdeveloped countries are talking about the sustainability. But what do you think about the stance of the developed countries? Because recently we have seen, as soon as the president come into the picture, and he just stated that to bring the plastic straws, because he felt that there is no need to make paper straws, because sharks are too fine. So what are his stance on that? That only few people are talking about sustainability, but the people who are having power to change the nation or to bring something good, they are not doing those things, sir.
See, again, that's actually the main crux of the matter. Yeah. So why are we taking action in terms of renewable energy in India? Why India or China, they are the mover nations in terms of renewable energy. Okay. Have they done it only for the purpose of climate change? No. They have done it for the two purposes basically. First, energy security. It is in our own interest, actually, to adopt sustainability principles in our own interest. Because it is not only about security, economic security, but also the ecological security. That's one. And second is that by opening up to new sectors, new challenges, we have created so many jobs. We have created so many enterprises. We have created so much of wealth. So it is in our own sole interest to drive change in that direction. We shouldn't be actually, it's all right. It's all right that developing countries need the help of developed countries in terms of finances and technology. Yeah. But the issue is that the onus of the onus of development has to be on your own self. Unless we do that, the dependence on others is not going to actually help any one of us. Any one of us. And that's critical that policies, reforms take place, regulations reforms take place, legislative reforms take place, financial reforms take place, which enable these enterprises, new enterprises to come, which could actually take benefit of the new opportunity which has been created because of climate change. Previously, we were actually dependent upon what? Coal. We were dependent upon oil. But now, because we know that this field has developed so well, that we can satiate our energy needs from elsewhere as well. So that's the real thing, and our leaders have to be open. They have to be very, very pragmatic in that. Unfortunately, the leadership of India and equally the leadership of China and many other countries, in fact, they have done the same. Yeah. We have the next Alok Gupta.
Thank you, sir.
Namaskar, sir. I have one question. Can you explain about, sir, climate bond and green bond? Can you put some light on that point also?
Okay. So, are you aware, Alok, about bonds? What are bonds?
Uh,
I do. I do believe that you know about bonds. Yeah. So,
no, sir. No.
okay. Then that's a slightly longish like conversation we can have that we can have separately. Bonds are instruments, no, which give you fixed returns. No? So and the risk element is much less in bonds as compared to others because they promise you that they will be providing you a kind of a guaranteed returns in a definitive period of time. And what has happened actually that because everybody is concerned about sustainability, everybody is concerned about environmental protection, everybody is concerned about climate change. So the big investors, no? For example, the Norwegian pension fund, which is one of the biggest investors in the world, okay, they have thought that okay, we don't need a 14% return on our investment. We don't need our 14% coupon rated bond. No, we are much more happy that in the present we earn only 7%, and we keep the remaining 7% for our future generations in terms of a protected planet, in terms of a conserved planet, which is good for our children, which is good for our grandchildren. Okay, so that's how the concept of green things have come. Basically, green finances come, and the green bond is actually, it could be anything which is green. Yeah, it could be like if we are using sustainably resourced wood for construction of your house. So that's also a green investment. And that investment, if it is coming in the form of a bond, that's a green bond. Yeah. But if it is related also to climate, yeah, if it is mitigating climate change to a certain extent, if it is conserving carbon, or it is providing resilience to the local people who are affected because of climate change, okay, then also it becomes then it becomes a climate bond. So essentially speaking, if you actually are a student of ecology, you will come to understand that everything which is green, actually, it is somehow concerned with climate. Yeah, somehow. Okay, there is a direct or indirect link. No? That link could be very, very strong. That link could be slightly dispersed, slightly weaker. Okay, but ultimately everything green, which is also climate. So you can say that every green bond is a climate bond, or every climate bond is a green bond. But in general, because financiers are very much concerned about definitions, that is why they say green bonds and climate bonds, right? And that's why, and you know that Azerbaijan countries have agreed to provide 300 billion US dollars as climate finance, to mobilize that much of money. And that's why actually many countries are developing a taxonomy, climate finance taxonomy. So what is actually a climate bond? Yeah. So government of India is also going to do that, and I think within a very short span, government of India is going to come up with its own climate taxonomy, which many countries have already done. So I hope I've been able to explain to you. So there is no, you can say, hard and fast difference between climate bond and green bond, okay? Because ultimately everything is interconnected. If you talk of ecology in pure sense, but for the financiers, green is one which is actually promoting the concept of sustainability, is promoting the use of green products, while climate bond is the one which is mainly concerned about carbon fixation, carbon accretion, and adaptation to climate change. We have
Sir,
Ruchika,
thank you.
our
Thank you,
next.
sir.
Sorry, Alok, you want to have
Yeah,
more?
thank you, sir. I one another question
So
about
could we move to another participant, and then I will come back to you?
Yeah, sure, sir. Yes,
Oh,
definitely. Okay.
okay. So who is the next? Ruch.
Sir, I'll ask if it is okay.
Yeah, Ruchika, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, Sanjay sir, it was indeed a very insightful presentation, and also the way you are communicating, I'm learning, I'm taking few tips on communication as well. So, my question is, 2 days back there was an AI summit held in France, Paris, where our Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, was also invited there, and he did emphasize on how AI is so important for us, and he did mention some loopholes, but the sustainability aspect was completely missing. It was completely out of the conversation there. So whenever there is a talk of sustainability, why does it feel like economic development is being left out? Why does it feel like it is always a trade off? So what is your take on that?
Ruchika, I would say that now sustainability is so mainstreamed, okay, that even if you do not talk about it, it is at the heart of it every talk. Yeah. So if you are talking of AI, for example, okay, what AI is actually meant to do? What is the ultimate aim of AI? AI's aim is the best utilization of resources, okay? Whether it is knowledge resource or whether it is any physical resource, yeah? Or it is financial resource. So what is AI doing? No, it is coalescing all kinds of information into one pot and then analyzing that information in a very, very integrated manner and providing you solutions or providing you suggestions. Okay? And what is sustainability? Sustainability is the best use of resources without creating waste.
Yeah.
And that is what AI is doing. So maybe that it was not actually mentioned. I don't know. I have not followed that. I was in a travel in a remote part of the country. I didn't have any access to that. So internet. So I'm not very well aware of what has happened there in France. But what I actually understand is that even if the explicit mention of sustainability was not there in the talks or in terms of declarations, etc., it is at the heart of it. It's the heart of it. AI is at the heart of it. Yeah. I will give you one example, actually how it developed. Because we have been in discussion with some of the very prominent companies, including Google, at the highest level. And the first application of AI actually was conceived in the energy sector itself. Okay, what was there?
Mm.
That the traditional form of energy system was very unilateral. Okay, you have big power plants, yeah, and then electricity was flowing from those power plants to the consumers. So it's unidirectional. Okay,
Mm.
then came the concept of renewable energy. Okay, then you have large solar power plants, and then you have rooftop also. Okay, you have solar panels on the farmers' fields also. Krishi, जो योजना है, ठीक है? So now the challenge was that everyone has become a producer and everybody has become a consumer. So the concept of prosumer came. And the concept that only few people will be manufacturing or producing electricity completely changed. And this came into millions and millions of producers, millions and millions of consumers. And the question was, how do we integrate that? How do we manage that? Because grid management is a very, very sophisticated thing. Okay, in India, electricity frequency has to be maintained at 50 hertz. Yeah? If the frequency drops, the grid will collapse. If the frequency increases, the grid will collapse. Okay, so the frequency
Mm.
has to be maintained. So not everybody can produce at the same time. It has to be managed properly, and the grid management system has been there. So, like integrating so much of information, immediately the need of actually integration of information came. This huge database, okay, big data. You must have
Mm.
heard term
Yes.
big data. Yeah. So
Mm.
the use of terminology big data came into being. Then that actually emerged into this in the energy system. Google started developing a digital spine. Yeah, they have a project called Tapestry, and they are the digital energy spine, and that actually has given them a kind of a thrust to develop systems which can integrate all types of knowledges together, and that's what AI is. So if we are, even if we are not talking of explicitly the word
Mm.
using the word sustainability, it is there already. It's there already.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Sir, there are few questions in the chat box
Okay.
which I would like to ask.
Uh,
The first question
uh,
is why?
let me let me see. Let me see. Let me see.
Sure, sir.
Let me find out where is the chat box here in Google. I generally don't use Google. Okay, you have to read it out because I'm not able to find the icon.
Okay. Sir, the first question is
Okay, I
what
got
can
it.
so the first question is what can be the most important risk components for factors in particular that financial institutions should take into account for climate financing or green financing?
Okay. As you see, it varies from project to project. It varies from sector to sector. It varies from country to country. Okay. In my presentation, the last slide was exactly that. Okay. So for any RE projects, what are the kinds of risk components? And you could see that in India for a RE project, because a lot of our RE components are imported, so the currency risk is the highest risk. Okay. You all know that Indian rupee has depreciated against the US dollars in the recent weeks quite appreciably, quite significantly. And that's a big risk because what is there that you are purchasing actually in US dollars, your equipment, and you are generating income in Indian rupees. And when you have to pay back all your balance sheet calculations, balance sheet estimates, they go out. And that is why there's a huge need actually to stabilize the forex. Okay? Many countries are actually grappling with that problem. And Brazil is another example which has been subject to this kind of problem in a very, very significant manner. I'm talking of a country which is comparable to India. There are many others which are at a much lower level in the platform. So Brazil, what they have done, that they have established a forex platform, which is sponsored by the government actually, and they stabilized the currency, which Indian government actually, because we are still thinking how much actually the government should take part in that private sector currency trading, whether it will actually crowd out the private investment. So these are the questions which are being discussed in the government. But you have like must have seen that the Monetary Policy Committee of the Government of India is actually very, very concerned about this 4S issues, and they are trying to resolve that. So yes, so in short, different projects have different types of risk. For some project, forest risk will be higher. For some things which you do not need any import or export, it could be completely taken up domestically, and the market also is domestic. Then the forest component is little. Then the operational risk may become higher, or the risk of off-taker could become higher. So it depends upon various types, and that is what actually the bankers or the financiers do, and they do a whole series of what they call due diligence or what could be there. The thing is that the benefit of green zones is that because the green zone is a very localized concept, it has a very limited geographical connotation in which the risks are already pre-identified. So the due diligence by the banks and the financial institutions could be much more quicker. Okay? For example, if somebody wants to establish a solar park in a green zone, then we know that that green zone is capable of producing this much of solar electricity or this much of wind electricity, and the banks need not do the due diligence on this ground de novo. So they could have a ready-made material. Yeah. So I understand I have been able to like answer to your question to some extent. We can have more discussions on this.
Sir, there is a question, another question.
Yes. So
As you have mentioned about energy efficiency firms, are there any particular database in India where we can find the data or data related to sectoral emission?
okay. Yes. Sectoral emissions are there. Okay. And every country is actually obliged to prepare a emission report and submit it to the UNFCCC. That is done every 4 years. So India has also done in December, and there you can find what are our sectoral emissions. So sectoral emission, yes, India and many other countries do have a very, very established system. There is, I can also say here that there is a well-established methodology approved by the UNFCCC as to how emission is to be calculated, estimated. So we have to follow that norm, that methodology. And
Sorry to cut in, sir, but the report I needed for time series data.
no, there is a time series data in there. Yeah, there is a time series data. It could not be. It will not be actually attributed to individual industries, but sector-wise emissions and time series data is there. Yeah, we have to like you see the annexures to that. Yeah. Or refer
Okay,
back
sir.
to the previous reports. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Sir, we have few more questions in the chat box.
Yeah. Are green finance, sustainable finance, and climate finance the same or different?
Yes,
As
sir.
I mentioned, Dr. Madan, these are actually terminologies which could be used in many different ways. If you use it loosely, green finance, sustainable finance, climate finance is one and the same, because there is nothing which is not sustainable and not climate. Okay, so everything which is green could be related somehow to climate. Everything which is green we could be related to sustainable and sustainability. So if you actually talk in the purest ecological terms, no, purest ecological terms, these are one and the same. But if you are talking in a finance term, pure, very conservative finance term, yes, green finance, sustainable finance, and climate finance have different, slightly different connotations. Yeah, but it all depends upon interpretation. What kind of interpretation which you are providing when you are going for any type of finance. No? It's all interpretation basically.
Sir, another question is there by Tekuri Narasimol. What is green? Why it came? Why it came name green?
Okay.
Solar
Got
energy.
it. Got it. Yeah. So basically, he was on wanting to ask that in building efficiency we have green certificate, solar green certificate. Why not it is in agriculture? I mean, yeah. Yeah. Is that a question, Mr. Tekuri Narsimalu? So are you asking that why there is no green in agriculture?
Yes, sir.
Okay. 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 So there is green in agriculture. Yes, there is green in agriculture. So we are actually naming it in various terminologies. For example, sometimes we are calling it low carbon agriculture. Sometimes we are calling it sustainable agriculture. Sometimes we are calling it green agriculture. No? So various terms are there. And actually, uh, there are already tradable carbons generated through low carbon agriculture. We have done a lot of projects in India which use uh, much less fertilizer, much less water, much less energy to produce more crops. And the carbon saved in that particular way of agriculture is then we have been able to sell in the voluntary carbon market. Yeah. Still not in the compliance carbon market, but the voluntary carbon market, which unfortunately has collapsed in the recent years because of issues related to monitoring and verification and greenwashing. And probably it might pick up again because of the new talks which have progressed in Baku and thereafter. So it is there, yes. So green agriculture, we do have green agriculture, and the carbon saved in agriculture because of low use of fertilizer, low use of chemical fertilizer, I mean, low use of pesticides, low use of farm equipments, a new tilling methodology, new seeding methodology, new harvesting methodologies, which consume much less energy. They are calculated, and they are put to trading in the carbon market. So yes, that is agriculture, green agriculture.
So there is a question by Ms. Pooja Kaushik about is there any open access database where we can find data for renewable energy funds issuance specifically regarding Asia Pacific countries?
There is no such accurate database which provides you the exact issuance of finances related to renewable energy, but there are various estimates. There is one project of climate policy initiative. Yeah. And the graph which I showed you in the beginning of my presentation has actually been taken from the climate policy initiatives working papers. So you can refer to the working papers prepared by Climate Policy Initiatives. And I believe there are a few others as well. I'm not exactly recollecting their names, but Climate Policy Initiative has a fairly good database. So you can refer to that.
Sir, I have two questions.
Yes, please. Hamad, go ahead, please.
So one is like Odisha comprises of a large forest area, a huge tribal population. So considering that, with respect to the green zone, does climate parliament has any plan for choosing this any green zone in Odisha? Because Odisha is a state which is rich in minerals too.
Yeah, that's a very good question. Actually, Marvinderji, we have been in discussion with a few of the MPs. In fact, one of the members of parliament called while I was on the talk, and yeah, I'll be talking to her later after this call. So she comes from the Kalahandi constituency, KBK, you remember. That area is also very, very suitable for a green zone. Then green zone is actually one of the most potential areas is the Orissa coastal area where uh, integrated green hydrogen plants are being established. So efforts are going on actually towards having the concept of green zone there as well. So Odisha is, as you rightly mentioned, Odisha has a huge potential of having green zones of various types. It's not only renewable energy generation, but green hydrogen, manufacturing of green cement. Odisha is a big producer of cement. Yeah. So green cement using green hydrogen, green ammonia, green aluminum. Yeah. Odisha is also one of the largest producer of bauxite, and it has large aluminum factories. No? So how do we actually reduce the carbon footprint of aluminum manufacturing? Yeah. Odisha also has huge number of mines, and I was the chairman of. I'm also the chairman of the Green Mining Task Force. So we have actually recommended how actually green mining zones could be established in different states, particularly in Odisha, which is such a large mining state. So yes, green zones is a very, very potential concept in Odisha, and some of our MPs are already working on it.
So there's another question, slightly out of the curiosity, like clean energy, as we have been talking about, the major chunk is goes to solar parks.
Yeah.
But like if you see the bigger solar parks in India, for example, like Gujarat, Rajasthan, MP, etc., we are the biggest populous country, and they used to have in a very spreaded area. So if you look at one side, it is good that we have been producing the clean energy. On the other side, if you look at the that land have been occupied where the no plantation, neither, because if we go by the MP, that in MP, I'm missing out the name of the city where they have this bigger solar plant. So as in Rajasthan, they have in Jodhpur, which is the area is like a green area. So that land will be because if we have the solar parks, then the land will be of no use apart from only these solar panels, etc. So
Yeah.
how we can address the population and the vegetation, both these aspects?
Okay, that's a very good question, actually. Yeah. So competing interests.
Yeah.
Competing interests. So the traditional model of solar power generation is that you put panels slightly above the ground height. Yeah. Slightly above the ground height. Yeah. But technology is actually progressing both in agriculture and in energy field. Yes. Now you have actually solar panels which could be fitted slightly above the ground. So that, and it could be actually adjusted in such a manner that it creates shades of various shapes and sizes at different times of the day. So an area is not 100% shaded or 100% open. Okay, so there is variation. And these areas which receive very, very intense sunlight, there you can manage a kind of a sunlight penetration which could be useful for certain type of vegetation. Just few days back, I was talking to one of the farmers of Rajasthan who has established solar panels under component A of Kusum scheme, which is about 5 megawatts. And then I asked the same question. So if you have devoted all your land for solar, creating a solar power plant, then what about your agriculture? Then he told me that now we have started growing leafy vegetables, which is growing fine. Okay. So see, the enterprising nature of human is completely like bottomless. No, it's huge. Okay, it doesn't have any limits. People will find solutions.
Like saffron has been grown in Odisha also, which is a crop of Kashmir. So
yes. So people will actually once people are faced with problems, they will find solutions also. And I have great belief in the human ingenuity, human innovation. They will definitely find solutions. No, you see, the thing is that we have been only talking about big solar parks. That's all right, but you see the rooftop, the Surya Ghar Yojana, what's the kind of huge potential it has. If you talk of all the houses and built structure in the country, how much it is, no? I was about 10 years back, I estimated just by putting up solar panels on the railway platform shed, Yatri shed, passenger shed, okay? You could have thousands of megawatts of electricity, okay? My school buildings, no? Okay. Now a lot of solar paints are being developed. So you can paint your buildings with such solar paints, no, which will use solar energy to convert photons into electricity. Okay. The buildings will also remain cool because it is not absorbing that much of energy. It will require less air conditioning. These paints are already have already been tested and they are approaching the commercial stage in Germany. They are still costly, but technology is there already, and it is only the market which is to be developed. So yes, we will definitely find solutions.
thank you, sir.
And that is where actually the role of NIT Rourkela will come. How NIT Rourkela could actually help Odisha to help with all these new type of every project will come with new challenge.
Yes, sir.
And that is where the incubation centers at NIT Rourkela will be very, very helpful to our new development aspirations.
Even recently, our incubator have been there in the Shark Tank where they have been doing something for some sort of thing underwater.
Yeah.
Recent.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
So I believe we are almost through the discussions. And if there are no more questions, I will definitely like to thank Almendra, Mosmi, and their colleagues in the NIT, all the participants for a wonderful, patient hearing and very intelligent questions, very thoughtful questions. I believe that these questions would compel us to think in much more pragmatic, much more innovative manner, and to try and find solutions to the greatest challenge, which is climate change.
Many thank you, sir, for your remarkable insights. Your engaging session has established a strong base for all of us to learn and develop. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. And
Dear participants, there will be a break for 5 minutes. I request you to join via the same link after 5 minutes, that is 7:30.
Thank you, sir.